All right, good afternoon, team. This is Terrence Mitchell here, um, instructional coach or instructional specialist here at Inspire NOLA Schools, Andrew Wilson. And the curriculum strategy that I want to discuss with you guys today is the UPSL or UPS check strategy. And the strategy is primarily used to increase mathematical understanding. One of the greatest needs for our students at Andrew Wilson is their need to fully get a hold of their comprehension skills. Based on our beginning of the year assessments and our first and second quarter benchmarks, we noticed that the students had a very difficult time with comprehension. Looking at their scores, which were released from our standardized test, their PART assessment on last year, many of our students had grave deficits with regards to their reading comprehension. As we moved into the school as a takeover this year, we really started to see that the students really had a struggle with the comprehension, not only in reading, but in ELA, science, and social study as well. And so we really wanted to be proactive with regards to our comprehension skills and improving the comprehension skills of our students. UPSL was the primary strategy that we focused on as a math department. And I really want to give you guys an insight on how we utilize the strategy. So let's look at our agenda. Today, I'm going to give you guys, we just did the introduction. We're also going to have a do now. I'm going to move from the do now to a model for you all so that we can all see how the UPSL or UPS check strategy works. And then we'll get a chance to practice the same way we would with our students. And then as you do or prior to us concluding, I want you guys to think about how we could all implement the strategy and get an opportunity to practice it together. So here's our objective today. So by the end of the session, all of us will be able to explain the UPSL strategy. I want us to also recognize and discuss the merits of using the UPSL strategy in the classroom and how do we implement the UPSL strategy once we get a chance to return to our classroom. While we know that every school may not have a need for that comprehension, overwhelmingly our need, especially with our students of color, one of our greatest needs is that comprehension skill. So we definitely want to give them opportunities to really improve and really get a strong handle on that comprehension piece as well. So who am I? I am Terrence Mitchell. I'm currently a math instructional coach at Andrew Wilson here in New Orleans. We are a part of the Inspire NOLA Schools Network. And what is UPSL? The acronym stands for Understand, Plan, Solve, Look Back. A lot of times we may see UPS check or UPSL check, look back can be used interchangeably. And why do we use it? Again, overwhelmingly, we realize that many of our students had grave deficits with comprehension. And so as we start to improve their comprehension, their understanding of word problems, the greater they'll be, not only for their test taking, but also with regards to their life lessons and who they are and who they develop, who they become as college students, or just as career-ready citizens in the United States and abroad. So here's our do now. In a perfect world, what would every student do every time they were presented with a word problem in your math class? And let's just think about that for a second. We don't have to write down our thoughts, but let's just think about that. What do we want our students to be able to do every time? For me, as we think about it, I would love for our students to be able to just explain what it is that problem is asking. And that's where we find a lot of our deficits. Just the explanation, the understanding of what this problem is asking and how do we best go about solving this problem. In the world we live in, what do students usually do when presented with a word problem in your class? And let's just think about that for a second. And as you think about that, I'll explain my thoughts. When I was in the classroom, whenever we had students to come across those word problems, many of them skipped them. A lot of our students found a lot of benefit and a lot of enjoyment in the computation problem. But when it came to the word problems, many of them, like myself, would always skip over them. So even as a student, I realized that there were usually only 2 or 3 word problems that would go with about 15 to 20 computation problems. And many of them would skip them and just not receive the credit for it and would do their best on the computation problems. So when I'm presenting this UPSL strategy, there are several things that I'm doing each and every time with regards to me presenting those word problems. One of the things that I found very helpful, or one of the first critical attributes, is reading or having the problem read aloud. Many of our students who may have difficulties with fluency or comprehension or just vocabulary deficits. One thing that we want to take away from their comprehension or one of the things that we really just want to eliminate is just the skills with reading, the fluency skills. So being able to read that problem aloud or have a problem read aloud to students overwhelmingly gives them a better opportunity to understand the problem. Additionally, each student should have a copy of the problem. So as we're presenting in any lesson, we want to be able to have that copy of that we're doing at the board for students to be able to see. Whether it's presenting on an Elmo or a PowerPoint presentation, we definitely want the students to be able to see what we're explaining. We want to model each aspect of the strategy from beginning to end. So as we're chunking up the strategy, we're teaching them the understand piece, we're teaching them the plan piece, we're teaching them how to solve the problem, and additionally how to look back. But when we're modeling the strategy, we want to be able to present it from beginning to end so that students have a better understanding. While we want them to understand each component, we want them to be able to go through each word problem from beginning to end. We also want to make sure that students who have regular IEPs are being allowed to use calculators and have their accommodations met at all times. So here's an idea. Mr. Smith's class has 25 students. If 7 of his students were absent because they were sick, how many students does he have left on this particular day? So the first component is understanding the problem. We have to really think about who or what is the problem asking, and what is the problem asking us to do as well. Well, what do we understand about the problem? Well, we know that there were 25 students in the class and 7 were absent. And what do we need to find out? We need to find out how many students were in the class that day. So now we need to create a plan. We need to come up with some sub-strategies. Are we going to draw a picture? Are we going to use an illustration? Are we going to draw a model? Are we going to just use a form of calculation or one of our 4 operations to solve this problem? And so the plan for how to solve this problem is a subtraction problem will give me the answer. That would be my plan. So now we want to go and solve the problem. 25 minus 7 based on the plan gives me 18 students. So let's check this answer. There were 18 students left. There were 7 absent. That would mean that there were 25 students in the classroom from the beginning. The checking part as well as the understand part are vital for our students. We want them to be able to check their work based on what it was that they understood about the problem. Both are overwhelmingly important concepts for our students to be able to understand. Now, when I'm grading a student or when I'm evaluating a student's understanding of a problem, I usually give them about 4 problems, and there's one particular problem that I really am going to zero in on. And on that problem that I really zero in on, I really want to focus on using a scoring rubric that I can use across the board. Starting with 0, the student's response is incorrect, irrelevant, too brief to evaluate, or blank. I'll give a student a point if they choose the correct operation but show major errors in problem or setup of the solution. I'll give them 2 points if they set up the problem correctly, but they chose a correct operation but had some minor computation errors. For example, 8 plus 17, they added and got 24, or if there was a number or 2 off, would be a minor computation error. I'll give them a 3 if the answer is mostly correct. They chose the correct operation, but they didn't do a check back or they didn't look back at their work. I'll usually give them 3 points for that. Now, I'm giving students 4 points overwhelmingly when they go through all the steps of the UPSL strategy. They chose the correct operation, they set a problem up correctly, and they completed a self-check or a look back of their work. So all those are opportunities where I really want to see the student be successful with regards to how they solved the problem. So looking back at the I do, they set up the problem, they solved it, and they did a correct check back of their work. Now it's your turn. What I want you guys to do is I want you guys to think about a task, and I want you to develop a lesson or an excerpt in which you will model how students will use the UPSL strategy or the problem-solving strategy. Now remember to follow the gradual release model, which means the same way that I did for us. I had an introduction, I modeled for us, we did a we do, which is what you guys would do with the students. and then a you do, where students are able to apply their understanding of the skill as well. We want to make sure that we model and score all points for our students using our scoring rubric. Don't forget those critical attributes of the strategy as well. When we go back to our classrooms, it would be very helpful if you guys will pair with a partner and then share your model with him or her, whether that be an instructional coach or another teacher, so that you guys can solicit feedback about how that model might work for your students. Additionally, being able to switch roles as well, and then you evaluate how someone else utilizes the strategy. You always want to thank your partner for their assistance and revise your model as necessary. Again, each school has a variety of needs, so you guys will be able to adjust those needs based on what you guys would need. So here's our exit ticket. So what is the UPSL strategy? Why do we use it? What difficulties do you anticipate students having with the strategy? And what difficulties do you anticipate having with the strategy? I definitely look forward to hearing what you guys have to share with regards to how UPSL might work with your students. I mean, how we could definitely implement those strategies to really support our students in their development. So here's a takeaway. I want you guys to remember that a teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops. I want to thank you guys for listening and definitely I want you guys to chime in and give me any feedback that you guys think would really help to support our scholars. Thanks again. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good day.